welcome back. Like I said, this is going to be the last one in our tutorial series. It's basically about using the precompiled binaries. This is important with Unreal Engine because not everyone has the processing power to create, to compile the engine from the source code on a regular basis, or it just doesn't basically go well with their workflow if they're a designer. So if you look at the Unreal Games in the top level documentation, is basically it's this middle one that you see here. So like if you're an artist, you just sync to perforce, resolve conflicts, and sync editor binaries, and then just update version files and run. So eventually what this makes is kind of turns the source code build into the compiled version of Unreal Engine that you can access from the Epic Games launcher that you can find here right now. And it's a bit of a tedious process, but when you know what to do in an orderly fashion and when you know why you are doing certain things, it's quite actually easy, but still error prone, so I recommend you to be careful, and if something goes wrong, just go back one step and check what you have done, or if there's like a typo in any of the text that you're going to write in the following couple of minutes. So if you look at the precompiled binaries documentation for 4.27, you can see that it actually is a multi-step process. And the first thing that you need to do is to make sure that your Perforce workspace is set up correctly. And mainly this one, as it says here, it includes about checking if the files are writable or not. You can see that a mismatch between what's readable and not might cause a build or runtime failures. And usually you understand this, as it's also written here below, is if you are getting an access denied error, that means Perforce left the files read-only unless they are specifically checked out. So if you set up your workspace like we did in the previous tutorials, like here for example, in the advanced section, if all write is already selected, you're good. Everything is basically left writable, and you can just skip that step. But for those of you who did not, you might want to set up a new one, or if you're getting an error, you can specifically make that writable as it says here. So you just right click on it, change file type, and just make it writable there. Once you're done with this, the second part is about, well, this is kind of the Epic recommended way, is use a separate stream to hold the precompiled binaries. So as it says here, also you can use a single stream, but they recommend a separate stream because not everyone is going to need this. So this is going to avoid team members that are not using precompiled binaries to just skip them completely in a very, very easy way. So what I did for this is, as you remember from our previous tutorials, that I created a stream depot called UE5, and under it I had the main. And if you look at the stream graph right now, we have Unreal GameSync next to it, which is basically the binaries that our Unreal GameSync is pointing to right now as a depot path. And this dev-binary is the new one that I created. So, and I also have a separate workspace for this, just to show you with ease without syncing anything. So it's UE5. If you click this, you see it's the dev-binaries. So this is important because we are going to use this information in a couple of places. So first of all, I recommend you to copy this or keep it open for now. And if you go back to the documentation again, this is going to ask you to create this. So an Unreal GameSync.ini, upper Pascal case. You need to create this, and you need to populate it with this bit of text here, modified according to your project and your Perforce setup. So what is this? Yes, if I'm to show you directly. So this is our engine, and we had the collaboration file, and then inside we have the test, and this is our project list. So at this project level, this is asking you to create a folder if it's not created for you yet, a folder called build, and then inside you're going to have Unreal GameSync.ini. And if you open this, I'm going to use code for readability, you can see the same text that we have here, so I just basically modified it after this, is you open and close brackets, and inside you have the path of your U project on the Perforce server. So not local, but on the preferred server. So just to show you, sorry, it's this one. So if I go back to my main stream, where I have everything, including the project itself and the engine source code. If I go to collaboration, test, and test.u project, so this path is the same with what is written here right now. And under this, the variable that you're going to set is zipped binaries path. And this is where Unreal GameSync is going to look for the precompiled binaries that you are going to upload in the next step. So the order of things is a bit off for my liking here. So because there are a couple of things that I'm going to also mention soon, but this is the recommended way. So I just followed this and everything works. I also tried just generating the binaries first and then setting up this stream. It's working as long as you upload it to the depot site. But just to be consistent with the documentation, so I recommend you to set the stream up first and then go generate the binaries. So if we go back here, so we have our U project and it's located in here that we copied to the top part. In here, then the new stream that we created called dev-binaries. So basically click here, copy this and add it here. So it's only this portion. So the remaining part of this is a bit of that's maybe the tricky part. So this is what we are going to generate using the build graph and a script with Unreal Engine's automation tool in the next step. That comes with the engine source code, so if you download it, you already have it. You just need to write and give some parameters to it so it knows what to do and basically where to upload it. But the name you see here, it's also explained just under here, is the source stream where these binaries are going to be created from, but the slashes are escaped as plus characters. So just to give you an idea, since we are here, this is our stream main, so it's going to be plus plus UE5 plus main. And then, according to here, the 4.27 documentation, it's going to add dash editor.zip. So I tried this with 4.27. This is working as expected, but it's maybe because it's the early access version that I'm using right now with the Unreal Engine 5's early access 2 version. This was producing, let me show you what it actually did is, by the way, so this is like the location that it's going to produce. So up the engine level, you go to local builds. Inside you have archive for UGS and you have perforce. So as you can see, plus plus UE5 plus main dash test editor. So it also adds the project's name to the beginning of this portion of the zip name after the perforce location, the stream name. So you can go ahead and manually delete this, but I was testing a couple of times, so it's just cumbersome. So I just left it as it is, and I added it to the Unreal GameSync.ini file that we placed inside our project's build folder as it is. So in short, this is the location where it's going to find the binaries, and it's inside a stream called dev binaries, which is in this UE5 stream depot, and the zip file's name is plus plus UE5 plus main dash test editor, which is test is our project name .zip. That's it. After adding this, you can just close this and then you can submit to Perforce. Then the second phase, which is generating and uploading the binaries themselves, as it says here. This is an example command, but I used this as it is after changing just this two things here. It works. Probably it's also going to be non-problematic on your side. But just to show you, so what I did is, well, go to your Perforce in your main. Let me do this. So just go ahead and open the command window here. And to show you easily, so this is the text I just copied. So when you open the command window at engine level, this is okay. So it's going to go into the engine folder, UE5 in here, engine, build. Then you have the batch files, and there is the, yes, Unreal Automation tool. This is going to run this, and it's going to run it with a build graph, and the script that is going to run on this is inside build, you have graph. And if you go to examples, you have the build editor and tools XML. So this is important because inside you have a couple of other options that's set here. So if you look at the previous one, you have the script and then you set the target, submit the perforce for UGS. So if you look at it inside, it's already set here. So example usage to submit a zip file containing binaries to perforce for use by Unreal GameSync. So it's the same thing. Like until here, run UAT. This is running from the build folder itself. So run UAT, build graph, script is this one, and then target equals submit to perforce for UGS. And then you have the P4 submit. And this is exactly the same up to here. But then we add two more parameters. The first one is which editor you want to build. So this one, the example that you see here is building a project called Shooter Game. That's why the editor you see here is Shooter Game Editor. So this is a native project. And what does it mean? Is that once you try to build a blueprint project like this, in my case, it cannot find this because it doesn't generate this. And what do I mean is basically a native project is something that engine can find at this highest level, at the engine code level, or it's placed in the folders that you see here. So this is the U project years file that we opened back then when we had no project created with using this engine. So what it does is like it goes to this one, the root, and then collaboration, which is what I added to this to make all the projects inside here native projects, and then engine source. So inside here you have a bunch of different folders, and inside you can find projects. So what it does though, it doesn't actually just go and look here, it goes one level deeper and then looks inside. So if there's any project in here, that is going to basically pick it up. And same goes for the collaboration. So it goes into collaboration, and then we have test, so one level deep as it says here. Then you have the test.u project, so it basically picks this up, and then it adds the Visual Studio solution for this to the engine itself as a native project. So that's why you don't get blueprint projects as native, I believe, in this case. So you cannot build them because there's no Visual Studio solution for them. And just to show you, if you go to uf5.slm, you're going to see a bunch of solutions, and then here under games you have test. So this is basically a native project that you can build using the build graph script that we are going to run soon. And what you need to do about this, so basically come here, edit our target, just change this to test in my case, that's my project's name, so it's going to be your project's name, editor. It's again, this part depends on how you name your project, but the E of editor needs to be uppercase, so be careful with that. And the archive stream is where this script is going to upload the final binaries that is going to generate. So you can skip this and upload it manually, but this basically makes it just one enter, after inputting this into your command line, then you're done. Basically, you don't need to care about anything, you don't need to create a workspace, you don't need to do anything with perforce. And in our case, if you remember, this dev binaries is where we're going to upload it. So if I change my workspace, this is where we're going to upload. So this is the path that you need to give there. So now this is the same, but UE5 dev-binaries. That's it. So after doing this, you can just copy this. Just be careful of the first part if you're running from a different location. This is of course going to change. But I open my command window at UE5 at the root level of the engine. So if I do dir, you can see the engine is here. So just paste this, press enter. It's going to build and upload it to the location that you gave in the archive stream part. So just to show you, I've already done this. Just to show you, I have the dev binaries, and inside I already have the ++u5 plus main dash test editor.zip. And if you come back, as I said before, so this local bits folder is going to be created, and archive for UGS, and inside you have the staging, which is like everything that is going to be included inside this binary build, and engine itself contains like the binaries build and the plugins. And oops, this one here is basically the final zip that is going to upload here. So this is this. Now, when you uploaded this, and you have the test editor at this location, and inside your main branch, your project has this build folder that has this Unreal Games .ini that's pointing to the same location and has the correct location for your project at the top part here between the brackets. You're good to go. Everything is ready. So if you go back to your Unreal Game Sync, you will be able to come to options, and the sync precompiled binaries is going to be enabled. So when you choose this, since I've done this already, it's going to be like the ones that you cannot use precompiled binaries with are going to be grayed out, and the others are going to be just enabled by default, so you can sync to this. And as it says here also in the using precompiled binaries part, so if you're doing this for the first time, you're expected to enable this this option that you see here, and then you can sync to the last one. So what this actually means is a bit different than this, and to be able to understand that, you need to check what just happened when you ran this command. So if you come back to your workspaces, so I'm just going to delete this. So this one tagged with my machine name and archive for UGS and with some random code generated after it. This is the one that the build graph creates to upload everything from the command line after zipping everything. And if you look at, let's say here, go to history, and if you don't have this, just go to rear, you have the history here. So basically I added this. Let's see. Okay, maybe I should go back to dev binaries, it's easier. So okay, here you go. So I added this updated binaries through the command line in the change list 425 and 439. But if you look at the description, basically it's 1-. And why this is happening is because this change list that I uploaded the binaries is referring to the change list 434, so one before. So I created the binaries while the change list was at, when everything was synced to 434, and then it uploaded in 435, and same for below, so it's one after. But these binaries can be used after 434 and 438. So if you come back here, show the UGS, as you can see, like 433 is not enabled, but 434 is enabled here. So this is disabled and this is enabled. And what happens is these binaries basically can be used until there is a code change. So the reason this is enabled is because after this one there was no code change. So basically 437 is depends on the same code, same engine, same source code after everything changed. But after 438, since there's a code change, unless you add this one is disabled by default. But then I added the second one, so it got enabled again, and then content change, it's enabled, content change is enabled, content change is enabled. So just to show you, if I go back to my main, and yeah, go to collaboration, test, go to source. So inside test I have test.cpp, just open that one. Maybe check that out and go back here. So just add a comment. or maybe write, yeah, to do. Implement this, save it. So now this one's changed. Don't save, don't save, don't save, close this. Now if you come back here, you have a pending CPP change here. Submit this, just change, added a comment and submit. So now if you look at your history of UE5, okay, collaboration, CPP. Right, added a comment, you have it here, and if you come back here, now we have a code change, and it's grayed out, because this one has no compiled binaries yet. So I'm going to run this script, it's going to take a while, and it's going to update the binaries that we added to the tape binaries. So if you can see here, right now this is the second revision of this folder, this zip file itself. So it's just going to replace this and add the third revision, and it's going to refer to 433 to change this 433, and this is going to be enabled. So I'm just gonna run this and see you soon. Okay, so the build is successful, and automation tool updated everything, and as you can see 443 is enabled now. And if you go back to Perforce, refresh, as you can see we have the third version, the revision of this zip file, and 444 is the one that we just added, and it's basically saying change list 443 updated the binaries, and it's this one here. And if you look at the command line, so this is what it's doing. So it's like stripping a lot of things from the engine that it's not going to be necessary, to make it smaller, adding only the necessary things, and then when it's done, so it's creating the zip file here, and yeah, just submitting a change list using the client spec. This is the workspace that it created, and this is the description that we just saw, and this is the file that it's adding, and yeah, basically just updates it, third revision as we said, and changes 444. And after that, everything is up and running. So you can just sync to the last one if you want, then continue using either the precompiled binaries, or if you don't need them, or if you don't want to use them, just uncheck this and yeah, sync to anything, any other changes that you can see here. And with this, you are all set up with Unreal Game Sync. So there are a couple of things that you can also check in the future, but I also haven't used them yet, such as you can customize the build steps, or you can edit the build configuration for debug if you need more information. There are also sync filters that you can check here, like for example, I'm just working on Windows right now, so I don't need Xbox, PS4, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, so you can just uncheck this. Other than that, you can have a scheduled sync, especially for big projects. I think this is very, very useful. So you can just leave it for an overnight build, just at certain hour is going to check and then just build. If you select also this, after syncing it also builds if you're not using the precompiled binaries. And there are a couple of useful tools also that you can do with it, especially if you have the access to source code of Unreal Game Sync, so if you can also change this. But yeah, most of the time these are the two things that I have been using, so the precompiled binaries and scheduled sync. And yeah, with this we are done. And thank you for joining me, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.